So right now we're demonstrating a one of the scientific methods, which is testing the hypothesis. We have here Dr. Huang, and she is going to administer 2 drugs to 2 of her patients. Hello. This is called a single-sided experiment where the doctor knows which pill goes to what group, and it is written right here. Okay.
Now I'm going to cover it.
So the participants don't know which drug they're taking.
Okay.
Okay, excellent.
And now I'm going to hand it out to my patients. Here's yours. And here's yours.
Now we're moving on to the second type of experiment that's called a double-blind experiment. That's when neither the scientist nor his patients know which drug they're taking. So right here we have 2 pills. Oops, sorry. And we don't know which pill is which. And now the scientist will administer the pills to his patients without knowing who's getting what. Okay, so right now we are demonstrating various scientific methods. Number 1 is observation or question. Our question is, does the height of a person affect the distance they're able to jump? Now we have formed a hypothesis that we will later test. The hypothesis is a taller person is able to jump farther than a shorter person. Now, in order to test this hypothesis, we have created an experimental group consisting of 2 patients. Our independent variable is height of each of our participants, and our dependent variable is the distance that they're able to jump. This is measuring the height of the patients. As you can see, we have a shorter person and a taller person in the group. And now they will be jumping. Woohoo. All right, we got the measurement. All right, stick around for the results. So in analyzing the results of the experiment, we can see that the taller person jumped farther, and the shorter person jumped shorter distance. So as a conclusion, we have concluded that a taller person is able to jump further than the shorter person. Ta-da! Right now we're demonstrating characteristics of living organisms. Number 1 is survival. Every living organism has to survive. The second characteristic of living organisms is adaptation. Right here we're demonstrating that many ages ago, humankind was much shorter than they are now, and it was a lot harder to reach for resources that were growing on trees, for example. Now, as time passed, humans have evolved and have grown taller, and now they are able to reach for resources much easier, and they are able to adapt to their current environments. The third characteristic of living organism is reproduction. Every living organism reproduces. There's a baby. Number 4 characteristic of living organisms is respond to stimuli. Any living organism reacts to a catalyst. Number 5 characteristic of living organisms is to maintain homeostasis. In other words, maintain normalcy.
The 6th characteristic of living organisms is to acquire nutrients. You see here, she is drinking water, obtaining that good old H2O that helps her body systems flow. Woo! The 7th characteristic of living organisms is chones. 96% of all organisms are made out of these elements. C is for carbon, H is for hydrogen, O is for oxygen, N stands for nitrogen, P stands for phosphorus, and S stands for sulfur. This makes up all of the things you see. Living organisms, that is.
96% of an organism is made up of CHON, and the other 3 to 4% are made up of phosphorus and sulfur. So here we're demonstrating 9 levels of biological hierarchy. The first one is an atom or an element. This is an oxygen atom. It bonds with 2 hydrogen atoms to make a molecule called H2O, which is water. The third biological hierarchy is an organelle, which is a small structure within a cell that helps break down waste products. It has a specific function that it performs. This triangle right here is a cell. Number 5 in the biological hierarchy is a tissue, which is a combination of different cells, 1 and 2, and there are many, many more cells that form tissues. Number 6 on the biological hierarchy is an organ. A heart is an organ. Number 7 in the biological hierarchy is organ systems. And right here, we're demonstrating that it's a brain system. It has a brain, spinal cord, and nerves, and they all work together to make things happen. Number 8 on the biological hierarchy is organisms. And a human is an organism, as Nancy here is demonstrating. Number 9 on the biological hierarchy is populations. And that is many, many humans together. Yay!
Each of these balls represent a level of acidity or alkalinity. Levels 1 through 6 represent acidity, with 1 being the strongest and 6 being the weakest. 7 is a neutral level, and from 8 through 14 we have alkalines.
Regular drinking water has the pH scale of 7, which means it is neutral. A coffee drink, a regular coffee drink, has a pH scale of 4 or around 4, which makes it highly acidic. Seawater or baking soda has a pH scale of around 8 to 9, which makes it a very basic or alkaline substance. Here we're demonstrating concept 4.3. The eukaryotic cell's genetic instructions are housed in the nucleus and carried out by the ribosomes. There are two cellular components involved in the genetic control of the cell. The nucleus, which is an information central that contains most of the genes in the eukaryotic cell. It also houses most of the cell's DNA. And the ribosomes, which use information from the DNA to make proteins. The eukaryotic cell's genetic instructions are housed within the nucleus and are carried out by the ribosomes to make proteins.
Concept 5.4. Active transport uses energy to move solutes against their gradients. The need for energy in active transport means that to pump a solute across a membrane against its gradient requires work. The cell must expend energy. Therefore, this type of membrane traffic is called active transport. Active transport enables a cell to maintain internal concentrations of small solutes that differ from concentrations in its environment, such as
Sodium and potassium. For example, compared with its surroundings, an animal cell has much higher concentration of potassium ions, K+, and a much lower concentration of sodium ions, which is Na+. The plasma membrane helps maintain these steep gradients by pumping Na, which is sodium, out of the cell, and K+, which is potassium, into the cell.